This change in Fortnite Season 3 is actually insane. Now, if you guys don't know, Fortnite Season 3 just dropped, and yeah, Fortnite did something really crazy, something we haven't actually seen before. They removed literally every normal, like, Fortnite gun from the loot pool, and it's literally only Star Wars blasters right now. And to be honest with you guys, I thought that I wasn't really going to like this, but seeing as what they did with the different guns and making them different and having more variety with them, I think it's overall a W. And this is actually one of the coolest changes I think Fortnite has made in a while. Now, like I said before, blasters only loot pool is a first for Fortnite in general. We've never had something like this in Fortnite. This is the first time they've really fully committed to a single type of weapon across the entire loot pool. You know, there's no regular Fortnite assault rifles, no like shotguns, no pump shotgun or anything, no SMGs, just blasters, and a ton of them. There's actually a really wide variety of weapons that you can use in this season, and I am all for it. Now, overall, it makes the whole season feel like a proper Star Wars crossover, not just like a 1 week gimmick. As you guys know, most of the time when we have these mini events, it'll be like, you know, just 1 or 2 different types of blasters, and then they're really not even that good to use or worth picking up. It's just kind of something thrown in there for the collab to make it feel like it's more involved with the gameplay, but this time it actually feels like it belongs, and it feels like they're actually worth picking up. I mean, first of all, because they're the only weapons in the game, and also because they're actually good and fun to use. It's not just cosmetics with this, the actual gameplay feels completely different with this season. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is that a lot of leakers over on Twitter and even Epic Games themselves in the early like promo material when they released, you know, the information about this season and what was going on, they made it seem like this blasters only thing was just for day 1. I think their actual words said something like this: as far as non-lightsaber weapons go, it's blasters only on day 1. And then they listed all of the different types of blasters that we're going to have this season. So people were really confused by them saying on day 1, blasters only on day 1. I think they probably should have said something like from day 1 instead to make it seem like these were actually going to stay for the entirety of the season. And people were assuming that regular guns would be back by now, since, you know, this is the second day of the season, but they're obviously not in game and we still only have blasters. So whether it was a miscommunication or some type of maybe like a bait and switch, this is clearly the direction that Epic Games going for the entire season, at least for now. We're not going to see any regular Fortnite weapons in this season, but to be honest, I actually like it and I really don't have that big of an issue with it. Now, like I touched on a little bit earlier, these blasters are actually good now. If you played Fortnite during past Star Wars events, you know that the old blasters used to be trash, like completely unusable. There was barely any reason to pick them up outside of just it being cool that you have a Star Wars weapon and it being there for, you know, the collaboration and stuff. But now these actually feel like solid weapons. You can actually win fights with them. Like I said, you don't really have an option because there are no real actual weapons like Fortnite based weapons. You know, the aim is clean on them. You know, there's barely any recoil on them. The damage feels overall fair, but I think there does need to be some adjustments, but I will talk about that in a second. They just don't feel like, you know, weapons that are thrown in there for a collab and they're not really meant to be used. The old blasters really didn't feel like they were meant to be used, in my opinion, or picked up, because I really never ever used them outside of, you know, the lightsabers, but these actually feel really good, and you can tell Fortnite put time into making them unique and actually taking them from the movies and Star Wars content. Now, like I touched on a minute ago, there's almost no recoil on any of these guns, which in my opinion, I think it's actually pretty nice. Additionally, you don't have to worry about ammo, which means you're not looting for bullets all game. And also, you really don't have to worry about reloading because they all seem to have similar cooldown timers. It's easy to, you know, swap and keep pushing after people if it cools down, and it only takes about like a second to maybe half a second or something like that. It's really pretty quick in terms of how quickly these guns actually do cool down. Additionally, like I said, with there being no ammo, you have infinite ammo. So once you pick up a weapon, you could keep it for the entire game, shoot it as much as you want. I know for a lot of people in terms of like spraying and stuff, that might get kind of annoying, but I actually like it because there's never been a time in Fortnite where we've never had to worry about ammo at all. Like regular guns have always been something that's involved with Fortnite, and I think it's really cool that this is the direction they went with this. There's no reloading in the middle of fights. That's a huge change of pace as well. And additionally, it just makes the game feel smoother in a way that I just wasn't expecting this season. I didn't really expect Fortnite to go all in with this Star Wars season and do something as crazy as this. This fully sells the Star Wars theme for this 35-day season. This isn't just a reskin of the Fortnite map and putting in a few POIs and everything else stays the same, or some like tiny little fancy collab. The whole vibe of the game right now feels like Star Wars in general. You know, Blasters Only makes the map, the gameplay, and the events feel like one big like Star Wars simulator in my opinion, not really just another Fortnite season with a few themed items. I know a lot of people have said that Fortnite kind of turned into Battlefront with this season, and I absolutely 100% agree, especially with the TIE fighters, the X-Wings, everything like that. It really just feels like Battlefront to me, which is awesome because I don't feel like we've had a really good Battlefront game in a long time. I used to play Battlefront all the time, but now this genuinely does feel like an actual Star Wars game and not Fortnite. And in some ways, I know some people might say that that's a bad thing because Fortnite is losing its originality. Of course, Fortnite's aspects are still there. They're still building. It still does look like Fortnite. Like I said, it really just feels like Battlefront to me right now, especially with all the blasters and everything, and I absolutely love it. I'm so glad that Fortnite went all in with this and making the content really awesome for this first mini season. One thing that I do have to critique though is that some of these blasters might be just a bit too strong. Not all of them feel perfectly balanced, and that's going to happen with every brand new season, but some of them definitely do hit a little bit too hard or feel a bit too easy to spam, especially when everyone's using the same stuff and no one really has to worry about reloading. The cooldown times are really low. I feel like there does need to be some balance adjustments and changes with this to make it a bit more like level the playing field just a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if at all if Epic makes a few balance changes or nerfs in the next week or two or sooner than that. And honestly, I'm completely fine with that. They went big and it's okay if they need to fine tune it because this is something that they've never ever done before in terms of changing the entire loot pool for a brand new season. These are some weapons, mostly weapons that we've never seen in Fortnite before, so I'm perfectly fine with Fortnite having some of them be overpowered. And a lot of the times the overpowered stuff is what makes Fortnite feel really fun. But one thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that if you are not into this, if you're like, this absolutely sucks, I cannot stand this season, I wish there were regular Fortnite guns, if you're not into it, that's completely fair, but just remember that this season is only 35 days long. Fortnite is trying something new right now, and if they didn't lock us into it for 3 months, like I feel on purpose. You know, this is a short, focused, and overall like experimental season, to be perfectly honest. It does feel very experimental. It's okay to not love every change, but I personally think that this one has been a lot of fun. Especially with it only being 35 days long, we're going to have all of this awesome content packed into this small little time frame, and I think it is going to be a lot of fun. But overall, you guys, it's just refreshing when Fortnite does things like this, and this change is really a great change of pace. Fortnite's done so many seasons that really feel the same in terms of the loot pool, and this one, even though it's not completely perfect right now, feels different in the best way. It's fast, it's simple, it fits the theme perfectly, and actually feels like a complete Star Wars takeover on the map. Not every season, you know, has to be the sweatiest, most competitive thing ever. And obviously there still is going to be some competitiveness with, you know, these blasters and everything. But I think it's awesome when Fortnite does stuff just to be fun. And this feels like one of those times. But let me know what you guys think about the blasters only loot pool in Fortnite. Do you think it's fun? Do you not like it? Let me know. Drop a like on today's video if you did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel. I make videos like these every single day. Use code PROZEROYT to support me in the item shop. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.